Hi, I'm Angela. I donated a kidney to my friend Hans. It'll be 10 years this month. Watching Hans on dialysis was difficult because he was 19 years old at the time we did this, and he was spending 3 to 4 days a week on dialysis, and it was absolutely sucking the energy out of him. It was really depleting him of his life force, frankly. And yet, it was helping him to live. But he is an artist. He has a band. He is a musician, a songwriter, a singer, an incredibly creative, wonderful, unique human being. And there was no energy in him at the end of any given day or week to really be who he was. So that was very difficult to witness. I decided to come forward and be tested to see if I could be a good match, because I wanted to save a life. I wanted to save Hans's life. His family had been dear friends of mine for years, and I wanted to be that person if I could be. It isn't completely inconsequential that at the time this came my way, I was going through a bit of a depression and having a hard time finding the meaning in my life. And I felt that perhaps being of service in this way might just jolt some meaning back into it. And so, in a way, it was a means of trying to save not one life, but two. When I first started to do the research on what it would involve, I think the thing that surprised me the most was how easy it is to live with one healthy kidney. I've now been doing it for 10 years with little consequence. It has meant being more conscious about healthy living and clean eating, and that's never a bad thing anyway. If I wasn't conscious of that before, it's definitely been a repercussion of having done this thing that I consider the proudest thing I've ever done, frankly. I think there were some people in my life who didn't necessarily understand this gesture, but the people closest to me in my life, my family and my closest friends, they all got what I was trying to do, and they did their own research, frankly. And I think the best argument is just the example that I've been healthy for this past 10 years, and Hans has been healthy for this past 10 years, and it worked. I had absolutely no fears or hesitation about what we were about to do. Modern medicine is pretty extraordinary, and I trusted the process. No fear, and lots of faith for Hans's outcome and for mine. The National Kidney Foundation was a great resource. I, of course, had financial questions. I'm a musician for my living myself, and so being a freelancer, being able to carve the time to do the surgery and then to have about 3 weeks of downtime is what it turned out for me, was not that difficult to accomplish. But in terms of everything being covered, it was. I, at the time, didn't even have medical insurance of my own, but the hospital that we did it at completely covered my cost, including not 1 but 2 years of post-ops. It's pretty great. My support system was really extraordinary. Like I said, I was going through a depression at the time we did this, and part of that was this belief that I was sort of alone in the world. And when I was in the hospital, man, was I proven wrong about that. The family and friends who came to visit me, who brought me food. When I left the hospital, I went directly to my best friend's home where she took care of me for the next 2 weeks before I went back to my own home. Um, yeah, it was an eye opener to my own delusions about myself, and the support system was incredible. And I think it's absolutely crucial to have one if you're going to go through this. Yes, I needed to make some lifestyle changes. I was told to lose weight before surgery. I was 48 years old when we did this, so I was already in menopause and had gained weight. I lost 20 by the time we did the surgery, and I lost another 20 post surgery, mainly because, when you're in healing mode, you don't have that much of an appetite. Can't really claim any efforts there on my part. And, I've gained some of it back, but I'm always aware of the cruciality of keeping the weight down to keep the kidney healthy. So it kicks me in the butt a little bit, and that's never a bad thing. The surgery took 5 hours, I was told, and I was only in the hospital for 3 days, 2 nights. The hospital we were in is one of the, best in the country. So, I was treated royally there. It was a pretty remarkable experience. A tip for a hospital stay is to wear shoes you can easily slip in and out of, like slippers. You're going to have abdominal incisions. So, stretchy pants or even a long dress if you're a woman, something that's not going to bind on your abdomen. You just want to be comfortable. The very best moment for me after surgery was, of course, seeing Hans for the first time. We weren't able to share a room, which at first I didn't understand until it was explained to me about, possible rejection, especially in the first 24 hours, and semi-quarantine. Once I was able to be rolled over to see him, which was not until the next day, believe it or not. Just going into his room and seeing him for the first time, and he's devouring pizza when I had zero appetite whatsoever. It just was maybe the very best moment of my life. I went back to work 3 weeks after surgery and was completely able to do my job without issue. But in all honesty, I would say it was probably more like a few months before I was completely 100% myself again. While in recovery mode, in the first few weeks, there was a lot I could do. You got to remember, you're being cut in the core, right? The abdomen, and the core is, that's where everything operates from. So it's difficult to sit up and to lie down, without a little bit of pain. But you just have to be tender and ginger with yourself. What I couldn't do was lift heavy things, and you aren't supposed to for the first month. I couldn't immerse myself in bath water for the first month. I could shower. I showered, day one of getting home. But immersing myself in water I couldn't do for the first month. I couldn't drive my car. I didn't try it until 2 weeks later. And even then it was a little precarious, but just in terms of feeling strong and not feeling weak. But I could do pretty much anything else. I was able to cook for myself, and you're not an invalid in that state. You just have to be careful about not wanting to strain anything, because you've got incisions that you're trying to heal. My health has been pretty much without consequence since donation. The only thing is, about a year ago, I was told by my doctor that my kidney was a little weak for the first time, and I just promptly got in gear and upped the ante on all the dietary watch points, and I turned it around, and fairly quickly. The whole experience has made me more attuned to my body's health, and really knowing how to recognize when something isn't right, and being very proactive about it, getting to a doctor, being more responsible, just taking more responsibility. Um, I was already someone who was, pretty health conscious in terms of eating clean, and was never crazy about exercise, but I would do it. And but this really raised that bar for just being attuned to my body's health, and when I needed something to go take care of that. Whenever I share my story, the question I'm always asked first is, and how is your health today? And how is your recipient doing? I think people just really want to know that good news is at the end of the story. Nothing really surprised me through this whole thing because both Hans and myself we were thoroughly instructed and informed on what the process would be, from the surgery to the recovery. Of course, Hans's recovery is a whole different ball of wax than mine, including all of the possibilities that you don't want, like rejection, and really getting a sense. For me, I had a whole psych consult and everything as a part of the pre-surgery testing to see if I was emotionally capable of dealing with the possibility of rejection. They were very, very thorough about everything. And so, there was nothing that surprised me, to be honest. Looking back, the best part of this whole experience is, of course, being a major player in saving someone's life. That's the given. But for me personally, in addition to that, it's being able to forge this amazing friendship I now have with Hans. At the time this all started, I was, and still am, dear friends with his parents. But I didn't really know Hans all that well. I just knew that his parents, whom I loved, they had a son in trouble, and they had a need, and I wanted to leap. But today, Hans and I are such good friends, and I don't have children of my own. He's sort of my surrogate son. And I think he embraces that title, and I certainly embrace it. And we have made music together, both being musicians, and we have recorded together, and we have been on the stage together, and we have laughed riotously together. And I wouldn't trade that friendship for anything in the world. The best advice I could give someone who is thinking about becoming a living donor. As a result of that experience, I found this quote years ago now, and I want to just read it to you. It's very short. It's by Henry James. It says, "Happiness, we are told, is accomplished by getting out of oneself. The point, however, is not only to get out, but to stay out. And in order to do that, one must have a compelling errand. Donate a kidney and save someone's life.